The parable of the wedding feast. And Jesus answered and spoke to them again by parables and said, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who arranges a marriage for his son and sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. And again he sent out other servants, saying, tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner. To understand the parable, it is important to know some basic facts about the weddings in Jesus' day. The wedding banquet was one of the most joyous occasions in Jewish life and could last for up to a week. In his parable, Jesus compares heaven to a wedding banquet that a king had prepared for his son. Matthew 22 verses 2. Many people have been invited, but when the time for the banquet came and the table was set, those invited refused to come. In fact, the king's servants who brought the joyful message were mistreated and even killed. The king, enraged at the repose of those who had been invited, sent his army to avenge the death of his servants. He then sent invitations to anyone his servants could find, with the result that the wedding hall was filled. Verses 8 to 10. During the feast, the king noticed a man who was not wearing wedding clothes. When asked how he came to be there without the furnished attire, the man had no answer and was promptly ejected from the feast outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Jesus then ends the parable with this statement: the king is God the Father, and the Son who is being honored at the banquet is Jesus Christ, who came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Israel held the invitation to the kingdom, but when the time actually came for the kingdom to appear, they refused to believe it. Many prophets, including John the Baptist, had been murdered. The king's reprisal against the murderers can be interpreted as a prophecy of Jerusalem's destruction in AD 70 at the hands of the Romans. More broadly, the king's vengeance speaks of the desolation mentioned in the book of Revelation. God is patient, but he will not tolerate wickedness forever. His judgment will come upon those who reject his offer of salvation. Considering what that salvation cost, Jesus is not this judgment well deserved. Note that it is not because the invited guests could come to the wedding feast, but that they would not come. Everyone had an excuse. How tragic and how indicative of human nature to be offered the blessings of God and to refuse them because of the draw of mundane things. The matter of the wedding garment is instructive. It would be a gross insult to the king to refuse to wear the garment provided to the guests. The man who was caught wearing his old clothing learned what was offensive. It was he was removed from the celebration. Just as the king provided wedding garments for his guests, God provides salvation for mankind. Our wedding garment is the righteousness of Christ, and unless we have it, we will miss the wedding feast. When the religions of the world are stripped down to their basic tenets, we either find man working his way toward God, or we find the cross of Christ. The cross is the way to salvation. Summarize the point of the parable of the wedding feast. God sent his Son into the world, and the very people who should have celebrated his coming rejected him, bringing judgment upon themselves. As a result, the kingdom of heaven was opened up to anyone who will set aside his own righteousness and by faith accept the righteousness God provides in Christ. Those who spurn the gift of salvation and cling instead of their own good works will spend eternity in hell. Thank you. Thank you for watching.